when we click on to mark here, we get page not found because we don't have a view yet. Okay, so what we want really is this kind of thing that we have here on tests. I'm on page tests here. Actually, I should have put something here to visualize what page I'm on, but kind of forgot there. Anyway, we are on tests here, and I want to view something that's like this, but on to mark, only those that need to be marked. So this is what we're going to do. First of all, we have to retrieve all the tests that this teacher, all the tests that this teacher wrote, this particular logged in teacher. And then what we do, we cross-reference with this table here. So this is the table here. So we get all those test IDs, and then we try to read from this table, which is answered tests, and then we check all those that have been submitted but not marked. And then on the other one, we're going to just have a slight difference where we check those that were submitted and marked at the same time. So that's the query we're going to need. Now, since we're going to base this on this similar thing we have here on tests, it will be a good idea to copy that view. So the name of the view is going to be to mark. So let's keep that in mind. Now we're copying the tests controller. So tests.php. And this is what the tests.php controller has. Quite a lot, right? Now, let me copy all of this. Let's see here. So public index, starting from here. Let me copy this view. Let's move up to this point. Okay, copy. Let's come back to mark, and right in between here, between the view and this, we'll paste like that. Okay, so the only reason I need this is just to change the view name and put that one here. Otherwise, everything remains the same. Let me come back up here. Let's move these over. Now, because we're copying so much code from one controller to another, sometimes we're going to have extra code that we don't really need in that particular controller. So at the end of the project, it would be a good idea to go through all the code and just make sure that it's doing something, and if it's not, you delete it. So far, so good here. What we are doing, if access admin, and then we go to this. Now, since the we are not expecting admins to be using this page actively, because if it's an admin, then they're going to see all tests. Actually, we can leave this as it is, because admin can actually probably be privy to all the tests that are on the platform. So I think it's okay that the admin can see all tests that have not been marked yet. So maybe we can leave that. The find doesn't seem to work well, so we're going to deal with that shortly. Let me put an M there and just try to search, and I get some kind of error. So I haven't gone through this error yet. We will go through it later because search is not really a big deal. I'm sure it's a simple error somewhere which we can easily fix. So if it's an admin, they'll go through this, but if it's somebody else, then they're going to go through here. This is what we're interested in for now. So from here, we're getting all tests, which is okay. And let's see, tests. So actually, if it's an admin, we won't even need all this. We won't need to read all these tests. We may just want to read from here. Yeah, okay, we're going to fix that shortly. So let's look at this now. So it's saying if rank is lecturer, then we read from this. So definitely we are looking for lecturers. So what I will do is my table will always be class lecturers. So let me copy this and let me paste it there. Then I don't need all this. Okay. Wait. Disabled is equal to 0. Wait a minute. So if it's always lecturers, then disabled is going to should be this. So copy that and let's put it here as well. And yeah, so we are practically just getting what's in here. Copy that and let me just replace what's at the top here. That way we can remove the if statement because we are always expecting a lecturer. So good. And there we go. So we can even replace this with, let me see how many times my table was used. Oh, quite a bit. So I'll just leave it there. And then the find is here. That's okay. And let's go down here. So what we end up with is a row of tests. So we do need the tests information to display those tests. But there's something here. There's select all from tests where disabled. So this disabled won't be allowed. It will be empty. Since it is empty, let me select this. You see it here, it's empty, so it's really not being used here. So let's just remove it and delete that as well. Okay. So becomes from tests where class ID is equal to class ID. Okay, good. So we're getting all yes, we're getting all tests from a particular class, and then we'll put them in here. Okay, so now that we have all the tests here, we can use this now to read from this table to check whether they've been marked or not. So let's do that. So I'm just going to copy this data. Okay, so here let's put some commenting so that we remember what we're doing. So here I'm just going to say read all tests from the returned or from the selected classes. So we are doing this loop so that every class that this teacher owns, we're going to read their tests. So all tests that this teacher has ever written. Okay, then once we are done with that, then we'll do another loop. So here we get all tests, all submitted tests. That's where we get them. So we're going to repeat exactly this. So copy this and let's paste it here. Only that we are going to be looking at data, because if data has nothing, we will have an empty array. So I'll copy this and just put it here. It will still be an empty array whether data was added or not. So let's just check for the count, because we know it's an array, so it won't cause an error. So if the count is greater than 0, meaning there's something in there, which is cool. And the same way we added data empty here, we're going to add an empty variable, and let's call this one, I don't know, to mark. Yeah, let's just put that there, and we're going to do the same. We may not need to do an array merge, but let's just put that there for now. So if data has something in it, so we'll do a for each loop, put data there, of course, and then we get key. A row is fine because we just needed it there, so we can repeat that here, no problem. So the query now is going to read something like this. So we're getting a row of a test, right? This is from tests here. So this is what we will get. So this is going to contain a test ID, right? It will contain a test ID. So if we check for test IDs only, we can collect those, because now we know these are the tests that this lecturer has or has written. And then we go to answered tests here and check for those test IDs, but then those that have submitted as 1 and marked as 0. So instead of even doing a loop here, we don't really need to make a loop. But maybe we can actually, just to simplify things, because the alternative is to put all the test IDs in one query, but that can be a problem sometimes because the query may become quite long, considering the test IDs are quite long. So I think using a loop is much better, and then we just add each returned row to this. So that's a smarter move. So let's do that and just say select all from. Now we want to read from this table, answered tests. So let's go ahead and do that. Answered underscore tests. Where? Now we're not concerned with the class ID. We want to change this to test ID, right? So let me change all three of these, all four actually. Test ID, like so. Okay, cool. So where the test ID is equal to test ID, which we're providing here in the query. But then that's not the only thing we're looking at. We're looking at where submitted is equal to 1 and marked is equal to 0. So those two important. So let me put here, and then where that and marked. Let's try with submitted first. Where submitted is equal to 1 and marked be equal to 0. So since we just want one of these at a time, we can even put limit 1 there, like so. Okay, so once that is returned, query, we don't need to add more variables here because these have hard-coded values, which this is the only variable here. Once we get that, we can add to this. So add it there so that we keep adding to this array, and then finally we get something down here. So here I want to mark not data but to mark. Now it's very possible, let's see here, it's very possible that we will not pass through here and we may get an error. Actually, regardless, we'll get something here. So let me put that to mark, and then let me use that same thing here, right there. Boom. That way, even though we pass through this or we pass through that, we'll still have this variable to add here. Otherwise, we'll get some errors. Okay, so yeah, instead of tests here is to mark. Is it? Yes. We haven't really gone deep into the crumbs here, but we will eventually. I have no idea what this is though. Anyway, this should suffice for now. To mark.php. Okay, cool. Cool. Now all I want is copy this, and let me just show what we have here. So I'll just say show to mark. If we'll get at least one, because we know we have one item here at least, so we need to see that. So click here, and this is what we get. So we have one item in the array. Boom. Let's see. But we have several items, which is not supposed to be. So something is wrong. So before we even check what's wrong here, let's look at the error. So undefined property class ID on line 90 tests model. Wait a minute, line 90. What is going on? What is going on line 90? This is tests model.php. Where is that? Go to the models, test model, online 90. So what is it complaining about? Class ID. Okay, so on this one, it's because it's we are trying to ask it to get a class once we read. Where is this originating from though? Right. In any case, on these loops, it's always a good idea to make sure that what you are trying to read exists. So let me just copy this. Let's just do row class ID, copy. So I'm just going to put an if statement just to avoid problems. If not empty, like this, and let's put that there. That way we can put these guys inside an if statement. So like that, and let's move this a little bit lower, like so. Refresh. Okay, so at least we got that out of the way, but let's look at the errors we have here. Why we have all this information that doesn't look like it's what we need. Let's look at that in the next video.